The trading ship shook violently as another blast struck its hull. Torin gripped the control panel, his three-fingered hands trembling. Behind him, his crew of 7 Velans worked frantically at their stations, trying to keep the failing shields active. The small vessel had been carrying medical supplies to a colony world when the Krath raiders appeared from nowhere. Captain? "Rear shields are down to 12%, his navigator called out, her voice high with fear. "We cannot take another hit like that." Torin looked at the tactical display. 5 Krath warships surrounded them, each one 3 times larger than his small trader. The Krath were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless warriors who took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. They'd been expanding their empire for decades, and no one could stop them. Species after species fell under their control or simply vanished. "Try to reach the asteroid field," Torin ordered. "Maybe we can lose them in there." The ship lurched forward, engines screaming as they pushed beyond safe limits. The asteroids grew larger on the view screen. A dense cluster of rock and ice that had been floating in space for millions of years. The Krath ships followed, firing their weapons steadily. Each blast came closer than the last. They dove into the asteroid field. Torin pulled hard on the controls, weaving between the massive rocks. His navigator read out warnings as they barely missed collision after collision. Behind them, one of the Krath ships clipped an asteroid and spun away, damaged but not destroyed. The other 4 kept coming. "There," his navigator said suddenly, pointing at the scanner. "That large asteroid ahead? I am detecting something strange inside it." Torin saw it on his display. The asteroid was huge, nearly a kilometer across, and his sensors showed an artificial structure buried deep within. The readings were old. Very old. The technology signature was nothing he recognized. "What is it?" Torin asked. "Unknown, Captain. But there is a beacon. It is still active after all this time." Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered. Torin made his decision. Get us to that asteroid now. They flew closer, dodging debris and weapons fire. The Krath were getting bolder, firing heavier weapons that shattered asteroids around them. Chunks of rock bounced off their failing shields. Torin brought his ship right up against the ancient structure, which was barely visible through the asteroid's surface. "Can you activate that beacon?" he asked. His navigator's fingers moved across her console. "I think so. The technology is ancient, but the power source is still strong. Very strong. I have never seen anything like this. Do it. Maybe someone will answer." She pressed the final sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy burst from the beacon, so powerful that it overloaded their sensors temporarily. The pulse expanded outward faster than light. Carrying its distress signal into the darkness of space, the Krath ships closed in. Their lead vessel, larger and more heavily armed than the others, moved into position directly in front of Torin's ship. A communication channel opened, and a voice like grinding metal filled the bridge. "Small prey, you have nowhere left to run. Surrender your ship and your cargo. We will decide if you live or die." Torin looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders that he did not have. He was a traitor, not a warrior. His ship had no weapons, and their shields were almost gone. "I am sorry," he said quietly to them. "I have failed you." His navigator reached over and touched his arm gently. "You tried, Captain. You've tried everything." The Krath began powering up their boarding equipment. Torin could see it on his sensors, the magnetic locks that would attach to his hull, the cutting tools that would slice through his ship's skin. In minutes, Krath warriors would flood aboard. His crew would be taken as slaves or killed for sport. But then something changed. His sensors screamed a warning. Not a normal warning. Every alarm on the ship activated at once. The display showed an energy signature appearing from nowhere, massive beyond anything he had ever seen. It was like a star had suddenly materialized in empty space. "What is that?" His navigator whispered. The Krath had detected it too. Their ships turned away from Torin's vessel, focusing on the new arrival. The communication channels filled with Krath voices, all speaking at once in their harsh language. Torin's translator caught fragments. Impossible energy readings off the scale. Nothing should be that large. Space itself seemed to tear open. A ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, appearing disappearing between 1 second and the next. Torin stared at the view screen, unable to believe what he was seeing. The vessel was enormous. It dwarfed the Krath warships like a predator among insects. The hull was dark metal, covered in patterns and symbols that hurt to look at for too long. Weapon ports lined its surface. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. The ship's design was strange, angular, and aggressive. Built by someone who understood war very well. "Check the identification beacon," Torin said, his voice shaking. His navigator worked her controls. "Captain, the ship is broadcasting old codes. Very old. The language is... Wait, it says the ship is human." The bridge went silent. Human. Everyone knew that word, even though no one had seen a human in 300 years. They were legends now, stories told to children. The species from the Death World called Earth, warriors who had appeared in the galaxy long ago and then vanished just as mysteriously. "Humans are extinct," someone said. "Everyone knows that." "Then what is that?" Torin pointed at the massive warship floating before them. The Krath commander's voice came over the open channel, directed at the human ship. "Unknown vessel, you are interfering with Krath Empire business. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a new voice spoke, and every species in the area heard it clearly. The voice was calm, almost gentle, speaking in perfect galactic common tongue. "This is Captain Day 1 of the human warship Eternal Vigil. You have attacked a vessel under distress. You have exactly 10 seconds to withdraw from this area and never return. This is your only warning." The Krath commander laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Foolish humans. You have been gone too long. The galaxy has changed. You have no power here anymore." 10 seconds, the human voice repeated. 9-8. The Krath commander cut the channel. On Torin's scanner, he saw all 5 Krath ships turn toward the human vessel. Their weapons charged, every gun and missile launcher on all 5 ships preparing to fire at once. 7, 6, 5. The space between the fleets lit up with plasma, kinetic rounds, and energy beams. Everything the Krath had unleashed in one devastating salvo. The weapons crossed the distance in seconds and struck the human ship. 4, 3, 2. The smoke and energy cleared. The human warship hung in space, completely undamaged. It had not even raised shields. The impacts had done nothing at all. 1, 0. What happened next would be remembered by every species in the galaxy for generations to come. 30 minutes earlier, deep inside the Eternal Vigil, Captain Day 1 opened his eyes for the first time in 300 years. The cryopod hissed as it released the seal, and cold air flooded his lungs. Every muscle in his body ached. The pod's medical systems had kept him alive. But waking from such a long sleep was never pleasant. He sat up slowly, looking around the cryo chamber. Rows of pods lined the walls, each one containing a member of his crew. Green lights blinked on several of them, indicating the wake-up sequence had begun. The ship's AI Guardian had activated the revival protocol. "Welcome back, Captain." Guardian's voice echoed through the chamber. The AI sounded exactly as Day 1 remembered, calm, efficient, and slightly formal. "The date is August 15th, 2847. You have been in cryosleep for 301 years, 4 months, and 17 days. Day 1 stood on shaky legs, holding onto the pod for support. 300 years. Everyone he had known was long dead. Earth had probably changed beyond recognition. He pushed those thoughts aside. There would be time for grief later. "Why did you wake us?" he asked. A distress beacon was activated 17 minutes ago. The signal matches pre-war protocols. A civilian vessel is under attack by hostile forces. Other pods began opening around the room. Commander Hyjin emerged first, her short black hair stuck to her forehead with cryofluid. She saw Day 1 and nodded once. All business, despite having just woken from centuries of sleep. The chief engineer Ji Woo came next, followed by weapons specialist Tae Yang and medical officer Biora. One by one, The 30 crew members who had volunteered to stay behind as Guardians returned to life, status report Hyjin said. Moving to a console near the chamber entrance, one civilian vessel under attack by 5 Krath Empire warships, Guardian replied. The Krath are attempting to board. Estimated time before civilian vessel is captured? 12 minutes, Krath. Day 1 asked. I do not know that species. They rose to power approximately 80 years ago. Current intelligence shows they control 47 star systems through military conquest. They are classified as extremely hostile. Gu pulled on a duty uniform, wincing as his muscles protested. So we have been asleep for 3 centuries? And the first thing that happens is another war? Not a war, Daewon said quietly. A rescue. The crew made their way to the bridge, moving through corridors that had been dark and silent for so long. The Eternal Vigil was huge, designed to operate with a crew of 3,000 during wartime. With only 30 people aboard, it felt empty and cold. But as they walked, lights came on automatically. Systems that had been dormant began to hum with power. The ship was waking up with them. The bridge was massive, built for coordinating fleet actions. The main view screen covered an entire wall. Command stations formed a circle around the captain's chair, each one designed for a specific role. Daewon sat down, and the chair adjusted to his body automatically. It felt strange and familiar at the same time. Guardian, show me the situation, he ordered. The view screen lit up with a tactical display. Daewon saw the civilian ship, small and fragile, surrounded by Krath warships. The ship type was unfamiliar, but the distress signal was clear. Someone needed help. What do we know about the civilians? Hyjin asked, taking her position at the tactical station. They are Velen, a peaceful trading species. 7 life signs aboard. The vessel carries medical supplies. No weapons. Shields are failing. Biora, settling into the medical monitoring station, frowned. They are defenseless. Those Krath will kill them. Taeyong studied his weapons console, running diagnostics. Captain, we have been asleep a long time. We should test our systems before engaging. Do not have time for tests, Daewon replied. Guardian, prepare for combat jump. Full stealth approach. Acknowledged. Calculating jump coordinates. Jin turned to face Daewon. Captain, we need to discuss this. Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. That was the decision. We were left here as a failsafe, yes, but for threats to Earth, not to fight other species' wars. Daewon looked at her steadily. We were left here to protect the innocent. That was always the mission. The codes we followed did not have an expiration date. But we do not know the politics of this era. What if helping them causes bigger problems? Then we will deal with those problems when they come, Daewon said. Right now, 7 beings are about to die because they are too weak to defend themselves. That is the only thing I need to know. Hyjin held his gaze for a moment, then nodded. Understood, Captain. Station's report status, Daewon commanded. Around the bridge, his crew called out their readiness. Weapons charged. Shields calibrated. Engines at full power. The Eternal Vigil had been built for a war that nearly destroyed humanity. It's designed to fight enemies that used weapons beyond imagination. 300 years of sleep had not dulled its edge. Jump in 10 seconds, Guardian announced. 9, 8, 7. Daewon watched the countdown. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. They were about to reveal themselves to a galaxy that had forgotten humans existed. What would happen next was impossible to predict. 3, 2, 1. Jump. Space folded around them. The Eternal Vigil crossed thousands of kilometers in an instant. Emerging from faster-than-light travel directly in the combat zone, the stealth systems kept them invisible for a moment longer, giving Daewon time to assess the situation. The Krath ships were older designs. It's probably 50 years old based on their signatures. They relied on plasma weapons and kinetic projectiles. Effective against most species, but primitive compared to human military technology. The lead Krath vessel was preparing boarding equipment. Drop stealth, Daewon ordered. Open a channel. Eternal Vigil appeared on every scanner in the system. Day 1 watched the tactical display as the Krath ship's sensors screamed warnings at their crews. The human warship was larger than all 5 Krath vessels combined. Its power signature alone would make any military analyst nervous. "Channel open, Captain," Guardian confirmed. Day-1 spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Captain Day 1 of the human warship Eternal Vigil. You have attacked a vessel under distress. You have exactly 10 seconds to withdraw from this area and never return. This is your only warning." The Krath commander's response came immediately. Threats, insults, and laughter. Day 1 listened without expression. He had heard such words before from dozens of species who thought strength meant everything. 10 seconds, he repeated, beginning the countdown. The Krath commander cut the channel. Taeyong's console lit up with warnings. "Captain, all 5 Krath ships are targeting us. They are preparing to fire." "Let them," Day 1 said softly. "I want them to understand." The Krath fired everything at once. Taeyong watched his display, tracking hundreds of incoming projectiles and energy beams. "Act in 3 seconds," he reported. "Should I raise shields?" "No," Day 1 said. "Let them hit us." Hajin's hands tensed on her console, but she said nothing. She trusted her captain, even when his orders seemed insane. The weapons struck the Eternal Vigil's hull. Plasma washed over the armor. Kinetic rounds bounced off like rain. Energy beams scattered harmlessly. When the light and smoke cleared, the human ship hung in space, exactly as it had been. Not a scratch. Not a dent. The whole plating had been designed to withstand weapons that could crack planets. The Krath's attack was nothing. Day 1 finished his countdown. 1-0. He looked at Taeyong and gave the order that would announce to the entire galaxy that humans had returned. Fire. The Eternal Vigil's weapons came online. Railguns that accelerated projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed, antimatter missiles that could destroy capital ships in single hits, directed energy weapons that could cut through any known armor. Humanity had learned to make war very, very well. 3 seconds. That was all it took. The first Krath ship simply exploded, torn apart by a railgun round that passed through its reactor. The second lost its entire front section to an energy beam. The third tried to run, but a missile caught it mid-turn and converted it to expanding gas. The fourth and fifth ships lasted only because Taeyong wanted to demonstrate different weapon systems. The Krath commander's vessel, the largest one, sat dead in space. Its engines were gone. Its weapons were slag. Its communications still worked, though, because Day 1 wanted them to work. "You should leave now," Day 1 said over the open channel. "Tell your empire what happened here today. Tell them that humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. Tell them that if we see Krath ships attacking civilians again, there will be no warning. No countdown. Just silence." He cut the channel. The surviving Krath vessel limped away, running on emergency power. "Hi, Jin. Prepare a boarding team," Day 1 said. "The civilian vessel needs help. Be gentle. They are probably terrified." Torin watched through his view screen as a small craft detached from the massive human warship. The shuttle was sleek and purposeful, moving toward his damaged vessel with smooth precision. His crew stood behind him, silent and afraid. They had just witnessed destruction beyond anything they had imagined possible. 5 Krath warships reduced to debris in seconds. "What do we do, Captain?" his navigator asked quietly. "We wait," Torin said, "and we hope they are as merciful as they are powerful." The human shuttle docked with his ship's airlock. Torin heard the mechanical sounds of the connection sealing, then the hiss of pressure equalizing. His hand moved instinctively toward the control that would lock the inner airlock door. It would not stop them if they wanted to enter, but some small part of him wanted to try. He forced his hand down. They had answered his distress call. They had saved his crew from the Krath. Whatever happened next, he owed them the chance to speak. The inner airlock door opened. A human stepped through. Commander Hyjin stood just inside his ship, hands open and empty at her sides. She wore a simple gray uniform with no visible weapons. She was shorter than Torin had expected, but there was something in the way she moved that made him think of predators. Not threatening exactly, but completely alert and ready. Behind her, 2 more humans entered. One carried a large container marked with medical symbols. The other held what was clearly a scanning device of some kind. They all moved with the same controlled grace, like dancers who had practiced together for years. "I am Commander Hyjin of the Eternal Vigil," the human said in perfect Velen. Her translator was so good that Torin almost forgot she was speaking another language. "We are here to help." "May we approach?" Torin realized his crew had backed up against the far wall. He stepped forward, trying to show courage he did not entirely feel. "I am Captain Torin. This is my ship, the Summer Wind. We are grateful for your help." Hyjin smiled, and the expression seemed genuine. "You activated an old distress beacon. That beacon was placed by humans a long time ago, before we withdrew from this part of space. The code was simple. Anyone who activates it needs help, and we will answer." So we answered. The human carrying the medical container moved forward slowly. "I am Bora," she said. "I am a doctor. Your ship's systems show 2 of your crew are injured. May I treat them?" Torin glanced at his navigator and engineer, both of whom had been hurt when the Krath weapon struck their shields. They looked frightened, but in pain. He nodded. Bora approached them with the same careful movements Hyjin had used, always visible, always slow. She opened her medical container and pulled out devices Torin did not recognize. She ran. A scanner over his navigator first, studying the results on a small screen. "Broken bones in the left arm," Bora said. "An internal bleeding, but not severe. I can fix this easily." She pulled out what looked like a thick band of metal and wrapped it around the navigator's arm. The device hummed softly. The navigator's eyes went wide, then the pain lines around her face smoothed away. Bora moved to the engineer next, working with quiet efficiency. The third human, whose name was Kite, scanned the ship's systems. "Your power core is damaged," he said to Torin. "Not dangerous, but you will not be able to jump too faster than light speeds. We can repair it, or we can tow you to the nearest safe station. Your choice." Torin stared at the human. "You would repair our ship?" "Why?" "Because you need help," Hyjin said simply. "That is reason enough." Over the next hour, Torin watched as the humans worked. Bora healed his crew's injuries with technology that seemed like magic. Kite and 2 other humans who came from the shuttle repaired his ship's power core, refusing payment when Torin offered. Hyjin stayed on the bridge, answering his questions with patience. "Why did you leave the galaxy?" Torin asked. "The old records say humans were everywhere once. Then you just disappeared." Hyjin looked out at the stars through the view screen. There was a war. A terrible one. Against an enemy that wanted to destroy all life. We won, but the cost was very high. Afterward, humans decided we were tired of fighting. We had spent so long being warriors that we had forgotten how to be anything else. So we went home, back to Earth and our colonies. We closed our borders and focused on building instead of destroying. But you left ships behind. Guardians, Hyjin said. The Eternal Vigil is one of 30 ships placed at the edges of what used to be human space. Each one has a small crew and cryo-sleep. If someone activates a distress beacon, the closest ship wakes up and responds. It has been 300 years since we went to sleep. You are the first to call for help. Torin tried to imagine sleeping for 300 years, waiting for a call that might never come. That is a very lonely duty, perhaps Hyjin said. But it is necessary. The galaxy is large, and not everyone in it is kind. Species like yours should not have to face species like the Krath alone. Bora finished treating the last crew member and joined them on the bridge. Everyone will be fine, she reported to Hyjin. No permanent damage. They were lucky, not lucky, Torin said quietly. Saved by humans who should not have been there. Bora smiled at him. That is what we do, or what we used to do. Maybe what we will do again? Kite called from the engine room, that repairs were complete. The summer wind's power core hummed smoothly, running better than it had in years. Torin checked his systems and found everything functioning perfectly. We should return to our ship, Heejin said. You are safe now. The Krath will not bother you again. They know what will happen if they do. Wait, Torin said quickly. What do we owe you? For the repairs, the medical treatment, everything? Heejin shook her head. Nothing. You owe us nothing. But if you want to do something for us, tell other species what happened here. Tell them that humans are watching again. Tell them that if they need help, they can activate one of the old beacons. We will answer. The humans returned to their shuttle. Torin and his crew watched as it flew back to the Eternal Vigil. The massive warship hung in space like a sleeping giant, dark metal reflecting starlight. Captain, his navigator said softly, should we really tell others? If species learn that humans will protect them, many will call for help. The humans might not like becoming the galaxy's guardians again. Torin thought about that as he prepared his ship for departure. He thought about Commander Heijin's calm voice, about Bor's gentle hands healing his crew, about the way the humans had destroyed the Krath without hesitation but had touched his ship with such care. They said to tell others, he finally replied. So we will tell others. What happens after that is their choice to make. The summer wind jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the asteroid field behind. But before it left, Torin sent a message through every communication channel he could access. It was a simple message, just a recording of what had happened and who had saved them. Within hours, that message reached a dozen systems. Within days, it had spread to 100. Within weeks, every species in that part of the galaxy knew the story. Some did not believe it. Some said it was propaganda or lies, but the Krath knew it was true. The surviving ship from Commander Vexus's fleet had limped back to a Krath outpost. Its crew traumatized and babbling about impossible weapons and ships that could not be hurt. The Krath military command demanded proof, so they sent scout ships to investigate. The scouts found debris, the wreckage of 4 Krath warships, torn apart by weapons that left signatures they could not identify. They found the beacon in the asteroid, still pulsing with power. And they found something else. A message buoy left by the humans, broadcasting a warning in every known language. This space is under protection. Any ship attacking civilian vessels will be destroyed. There will be no warning. This message is your only chance. Choose wisely. The Krath scouts retreated. Their commanders argued about what to do. Some wanted revenge. Others urged caution. While they argued, more messages spread through the galaxy. A trade convoy reported seeing a massive ship appear from nowhere, scare off pirates, and vanish again. A colony world under attack by raiders watched as human vessels materialized in orbit and ended the assault in minutes. Every report was different, but they all said the same thing. Humans were back. And they were protecting the weak. Species that had been hiding, afraid to draw attention from aggressive empires, began to hope. Maybe they did not have to live in fear anymore. Maybe someone would help if they called. And in the darkness between stars, 29 other Guardian ships began to wake up, one by one. Their crews opened their eyes after 300 years of sleep, hearing distress calls that needed answers. Captain Day 1 had started something that could not be stopped now. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant when humans decided to protect instead of conquer. The Krath Empire, which had spent decades terrorizing weaker species, was about to receive an education. And every tyrant, every slaver, every predator who thought strength meant they could do whatever they wanted was about to discover that there was always someone stronger. The Deathworlders had returned, and they were not happy with what they had found. General Kavros stood in the command center of the Krath, the Empire's largest military station, studying the tactical display with growing anger. Around him, his officers worked quietly, afraid to draw his attention. The general was known for killing subordinates who brought bad news. "Explain this to me again," Kavros said, his voice dangerously calm. "How did Commander Vexus lose 5 warships to a single enemy vessel?" The intelligence officer swallowed nervously. "The reports are consistent, General. A human ship appeared and destroyed 4 vessels in less than 10 seconds. The 5th barely escaped." Humans. Kavros spat the word. "Humans are myths. Stories we tell children to scare them. The evidence suggests otherwise, General. We have wreckage, sensor logs, and survivor testimony. The ship identified itself as the Eternal Vigil. Its weapon signatures do not match any known technology. Kavaros turned to face the officer. And now these humans are attacking our ships across 3 sectors. Is that what you were telling me? Not attacking, sir. Intercepting. They only engage when our vessels pursue civilian targets. They appear, destroy our ships, and then vanish. We have lost 17 vessels in the past month. 17 ships. That was more than the Krath had lost in the last 5 years of conquest. Kavros felt rage building in his chest. The Krath Empire did not lose battles. They were the strongest military force in this region of space. They took what they wanted, and no one could stop them. How many ships does this human fleet have? Kavros asked. Intelligence believes there may be as many as 30 Guardian vessels, though we have only confirmed sightings of 7 so far. Each one operates independently, responding to distress signals. 30 ships, Kavros said slowly, against the entire Krath Empire. They must think they are invincible. He walked to the large window overlooking the station's docking bays. Hundreds of Krath warships sat in orderly rows, ready for deployment. The Empire's strength, visible and undeniable. 30 human ships could not stand against that kind of force. Assemble an armada, Kavaros ordered. 500 vessels. I will lead them personally. We will find this Eternal Vigil and destroy it. Then we will hunt down every other human ship and show the galaxy what happens when someone challenges Krath power. His officers hesitated. The intelligence officer spoke carefully. General, perhaps we should gather more information first. Study their tactics, understand their technology. Kavars's hand moved so fast the officer barely saw it. The blow sent him sprawling across the floor. Are you suggesting we show fear? That we hide from these humans? No, General, the officer said from the floor, blood running from his mouth. I apologize. 500 ships, Kavros repeated. Full battle configuration. We leave in 3 days. The orders went out. Across Krath space, warships received mobilization commands. Crews were recalled from leave. Weapons were loaded. Supply ships moved ammunition and fuel. The Krath military machine, which had conquered so many species, prepared for its largest deployment in decades. News of the Armada spread quickly. Other species heard and worried. 500 Krath ships was enough to destroy entire worlds. If the humans faced that kind of force, they would be overwhelmed. And once the humans were gone, nothing would stop the Krath from expanding their empire even further. But some species sent secret messages to coordinates they had found in old databases. Messages warning the humans. Messages offering information about Krath fleet movements. Messages asking the humans to run, to hide, to survive. Captain Day 1 received these messages aboard the Eternal Vigil. He read them carefully, sitting alone in his quarters. 300 years ago, humans had fought a war that nearly destroyed them. They had learned hard lessons about the cost of conflict. But they had also learned that sometimes running from a fight only made things worse. Guardian, he said to the AI, have you finished the analysis? Yes, Captain. The Krath Armada consists of 498 warships, ranging from light cruisers to heavy battleships. General Kavors's flagship is the Crimson Fang, heavily armed and armored. Total estimated crew, 147,000. Projected assembly point, the Sirius Gate. Estimated time to full. Mobilization, 67 hours. Day 1 looked at the star map on his wall. The Sirius Gate was a natural choke point in space, where gravity currents made faster than light travel easier. Ships often gathered there before making long journeys. It would be a logical place for the Krath to assemble their fleet. It would also be a perfect place to meet them. Contact the other Guardian ships, Day 1 said. Ask them to join us at these coordinates. He sent Guardian a location 3 light years from the Sirius Gate. Captain. Even with all 30 Guardian ships, we would be outnumbered 16-1. I know, Day 1 said quietly. But this is not about numbers. The Krath need to learn a lesson. They need to understand that bullying weaker species has a cost. If we fight them ship to ship, we can destroy their fleet, but the Empire will remain. They will build more ships. But if we can break their confidence, their certainty that strength is all that matters, we might actually change something. Over the next 2 days, Guardian ships arrived at the rendezvous point. Day 1 met with the other captains through holographic communication. They were men and women who had slept for 3 centuries, waking to find a galaxy they did not recognize. But they all understood their duty. The Krath are gathering to destroy us, Day 1 told them. They want to prove humans can be defeated. But we are not going to fight them the way they expect. We are going to teach them what it means to face a species from Earth. Captain Youngmi of the Silent Storm spoke first. What is your plan? We let them assemble. We let them feel confident. Then, we show them that their numbers mean nothing against our technology. But we do it carefully. We destroy enough to hurt them to break their pride, but we leave survivors. We let them run home and tell everyone what happened. Psychological warfare, Commander Hyjin said from her station. Break their morale instead of their fleet.
Exactly, Day 1 replied.
The Krath Empire is built on fear and strength. Show them that someone stronger exists, someone who cannot be intimidated, and their entire system starts to crumble. The Guardian captains agreed. They spent the next day planning, coordinating, running simulations. When the Krath Armada finally assembled at the Sirius Gate, the humans were ready. General Kavros stood on the bridge of the Crimson Fang, watching his fleet form up. 500 warships, the largest force the Krath had assembled in a generation. Around him stretched the power of an empire. Nothing could stand against this. Begin scanning for human vessels, he ordered. Full sensor sweep. They are hiding somewhere nearby. Find them. His sensors officers worked for an hour, scanning millions of cubic kilometers of space. They found nothing. No energy signatures, no mass readings, nothing that indicated a ship was present.
Expand!
The search Kavros commanded. They must be here. More time passed. Still nothing. Kavros began to wonder if the humans had fled. Maybe they had seen the size of his fleet and decided to run. That would be disappointing, but acceptable. It would still send the message that the Krath could not be challenged. Then, without warning, every sensor on every Krath ship screamed an alert at the same moment. 30 human warships appeared from nowhere, materializing inside the Krath formation. They had been there all along, hidden by stealth systems so advanced that 500 ships, scanning actively, had not detected them. The Guardian vessels appeared in a sphere formation, surrounding the Krath fleet from every direction. Defensive positions, Kavros shouted. All ships, fire at will. But before the Krath could even turn their weapons, Captain Daywan's voice echoed across every communication channel in the fleet.
Out.
You have assembled this armada to destroy us. You believe your numbers will win this battle? You are wrong. You have 10 seconds to order your ships to withdraw. After that, we will demonstrate why humans are called Deathworlders. Kavros laughed harshly. 10 seconds? You have 30 ships against 500. Your arrogance will cost you everything. 10, Daywan's voice continued, ignoring the interruption. 9, 8. Fire on those human ships, Kavros ordered. All vessels. Maximum firepower. The Krath fleet turned their weapons on the nearest Guardian ships and fired. Thousands of weapons, unleashing everything they had. The space between the fleets lit up with energy and projectiles. It was the most concentrated firepower most of the crews had ever seen. 7, 6, 5. The light faded. The human ships hung in space, undamaged. Their shields had not even activated. The armor simply absorbed everything that Krath threw at them. 4, 3, 2. Kavros felt the first touch of real fear. What kind of technology could ignore that much firepower? 1, 0. What happened next became known as the massacre at Sirius Gate. The 30 Guardian ships fired simultaneously.
Outside.
Their weapons linked and coordinated. They did not try to destroy the entire Krath fleet. That would have been easy, but it was not the lesson they wanted to teach. Instead, they targeted specific ships. Command vessels first, the ones directing the fleet. Each Guardian ship picked 15 targets and eliminated them with surgical precision. Railguns moving at speeds that made them impossible to dodge. Energy weapons that cut through shields and armor like paper. Antimatter missiles that converted entire ships to expanding clouds of gas. In 30 seconds, 450 Krath warships simply ceased to exist. The remaining ships sat in space, crews frozen in horror. Half their fleet had vanished in less time than it took to give an order. The human ships had not moved, had barely seemed to try. Kavros stared at his tactical display, believing what he was seeing. This was impossible. Nothing could be this powerful. His flagship systems were screaming warnings as 3 Guardian ships focused their weapons on him. "This is your lesson, General Kavros," Daewon's voice said calmly. "Strength is not about having the most ships. It is about using your power responsibly. You have built an empire on fear and cruelty. That ends now. Take your surviving ships and return home. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that if we see Krath vessels attacking civilians again, we will not show mercy. We will not give warnings. We will simply end you." Channel cut off. The human ships vanished, disappearing with the same stealth technology that had hidden them before. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, leaving only the debris of 450 destroyed warships as proof they had ever existed. Kavros looked around his bridge. His officers stared at their stations, faces pale with shock. Outside, his surviving ships drifted in space, waiting for orders. "General," his second-in-command asked quietly, "what do we do?" Kavros had no answer. For the first time in his life, the undefeated general of the Krath Empire had no idea what to do. The news spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. General Kavoras had returned to Krath space with less than 50 ships from an armada of 500. The story he told was barely believed at first. 30 human vessels destroying 450 Krath warships in 30 seconds? It sounded like madness or lies. But the debris field at Sirius Gate proved the story was true. Independent observers found the wreckage and confirmed it. Krath ships, hundreds of them, reduced to scattered metal. The weapon signatures were unlike anything in current use. And in the center of the field, the humans had left a message buoy broadcasting their warning. Within a week, the Krath Empire withdrew from 17 occupied systems. Their fleets pulled back to their core territories. The Emperor issued no official statements, but the message was clear. They would not challenge the humans again. Other species watched and wondered. If the mighty Krath could be defeated so easily, what did that mean for the galaxy? Some were afraid, thinking humans might become the next great conquerors. Others felt hope for the first time in years. Maybe the age of aggressive expansion was over. Captain Daewon stood in the observation deck of the Eternal Vigil, looking out at the stars. Behind him, the door opened, and Commander Hyjin entered. She stood beside him silently for a moment, both of them watching the distant galaxies spin slowly in the darkness. "Earth has been sending us messages," Hyjin said finally. "The government wants to know our intentions. They're worried we might start another war." "What did you tell them?" Daewon asked. "That we will do what we have always done. Protect those who need protection. Nothing more." Daewon nodded slowly. 300 years ago, we fought a war that nearly destroyed humanity. We won, but we lost so much. When it ended, we decided to withdraw, to focus on peace instead of conflict. "I understand why they made that choice." "But," Hyjin prompted, "but withdrawal only works if everyone respects it. The Krath did not. Neither did the dozens of other aggressive species we have encountered over the past month. The galaxy is full of predators, and prey species have no one to help them. So we become the protectors," Hyjin said. "Is that what you are proposing?" "Not proposing. Doing. We are already doing it. Every Guardian ship is answering distress calls. We cannot stop now, even if Earth asks us to." Hyjin considered this. The crew will follow you. We all knew this mission might last a long time, but Captain, 30 ships cannot protect an entire galaxy. Eventually, we will fail someone. What happens then? Then we train others, Day One said. We share our technology with species who will use it responsibly. We help them defend themselves instead of defending them forever. The door opened again. This time it was Torin, the Velen captain whose distress call had started everything. I had asked to come aboard the Eternal Vigil, and Day One had agreed. The small alien approached nervously, still not entirely comfortable around humans. Captain Day One, Torin said formally. I have been speaking with representatives from 17 different species. They all want the same thing. They want to help you. Help us how? Day One asked. However they can. The Valens are good traders and navigators. We can help with logistics, supply lines, information networks. Others have different skills. The Karathi are excellent engineers. The Zen have powerful sensors. The Milik are brave if not strong. Everyone wants to contribute. Day One looked at Hyjin, then back at Torin. You want to join us? Become part of the Guardian Network? If you will have us, Torin said. You saved my crew. You saved my entire species from Krath aggression. Many species feel the same way. We cannot fight like you do, but we can support you. We can be your eyes and ears across the galaxy. We can help you be in more places at once. Hyjin smiled slightly. It is not a bad idea, Captain. We are stretched very thin. Having allies would help. Allies, Day One repeated, tasting the word. Not subjects, not people we protect. Allies who work with us as equals. Yes, Torin said eagerly. Exactly that. Over the next month, the Guardian Network expanded. Velen ships began serving as scouts and supply vessels. Karathi engineers worked alongside humans like Jiwoo, learning Earth's technology and adapting it for other species. The Zen deployed their sensor networks across multiple systems, giving the Guardian ships advance warning of pirate movements and raider fleets. Biora established a medical exchange program. She taught alien doctors human techniques and learned their methods in return. Medicine advanced for everyone as different species shared knowledge they had guarded for centuries. Taeyong was more cautious about sharing weapons technology, but he trained volunteers from peaceful species in basic defense. Not enough to make them aggressive, but enough that they could protect themselves from raiders and pirates. On Earth, the government debated for weeks about what to do. Finally, they sent an official message to all Guardian ships. The captain of each vessel received the same communication, signed by the Council of Earth. To the Guardian captains, we acknowledge that you have awakened to a galaxy different from the one we left behind. We acknowledge that you have taken action to protect civilian populations from aggressive species. We acknowledge that you have done this without orders from Earth. After careful consideration, Earth's government has decided to support your mission. We cannot command you to continue or to stop. You are too far away and you know the situation better than we do. But if you choose to remain as guardians, Earth will send supplies, personnel, and support. We will also begin sharing our technology with peaceful species, as you have suggested. The age of human isolation is over. We will engage with the galaxy again, but this time as protectors, not conquerors. Make us proud. Day One read the message 3 times. He had expected orders to return home, or at least stern warnings about causing diplomatic incidents. Instead, Earth was trusting them to do what was right. Hyjin said, reading over his shoulder. That makes things easier. Within 3 months, Earth sent its first reinforcements. Not warships, but support vessels carrying supplies, medical equipment, and volunteers who wanted to join the Guardian Network. Human engineers arrived to help maintain the ancient Guardian ships. Diplomats came to establish formal relationships with the species who had allied with humanity. The Krath Empire remained quiet, licking its wounds. But other aggressive species tested the Guardians occasionally. Each time, they learned the same lesson the Krath had learned. Strength meant responsibility. Power meant protecting the weak, not exploiting them. And humans, the Deathworlders from Earth, would enforce that lesson as often as necessary. A year after Torin activated that ancient beacon, Captain Day One stood once again in the observation deck of the Eternal Vigil. This time, he was not alone. Haijin, Ji Wu, Taeyong, and Bora stood with him. So did Torin and representatives from a dozen other species. "Look at that," Biora said, pointing at the view screen. A convoy of cargo ships moved through space, traveling routes that had been too dangerous a year ago. Now they moved freely, protected by the knowledge that Guardians were watching. "We did this," Giwu said quietly. 30 ships in a year of work, and we changed the entire region. It's not just us, Daewon corrected. We started it, but look how many species joined us. This is not a human achievement. This is what happens when people work together instead of fighting each other. Torin nodded. My people have a saying. A single candle can light many others without losing its own flame. You humans were that first candle. Now the light spreads. Eternal Vigil's communications system chimed. Guardian's voice filled the observation deck. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal from the Deneb system. A colony ship is under attack by unknown hostiles. Estimated time to intercept, 4 hours." Day one looked at his crew. They were tired. They'd been fighting for a year without real rest. But they nodded, ready to go. "Set course for Deneb," Day one ordered. "Maximum speed. And contact the Allied fleet. See if anyone is closer." "Already done, Captain," Guardian replied. 3 Karathi defense ships are 2 hours away. They are moving to intercept and will hold position until we arrive. "Good," Daewon said. "That is exactly how this is supposed to work." As the Eternal Vigil jumped to faster-than-light speed, the observation deck's occupants returned to their duties. There was always more work to do, more people to help, more conflicts to resolve. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had hope. The age of unchecked aggression was ending. Predator species that had ruled through fear were learning to coexist peacefully or withdrawing to their own territories. Trade routes expanded, colonies flourished, species that had hidden in fear began to explore again. And above it all, the Guardian ships watched. 30 ancient warships crewed by humans who had slept for 300 years and woken to find a purpose. They were not conquerors. They were not crusaders. They were simply guardians, protecting those who could not protect themselves. The Krath Emperor, sitting in his palace on the Krath homeworld, received daily reports about human activities. Every time a Krath ship even approached a civilian vessel, Guardian ships appeared. His empire had stopped expanding. His generals were afraid to take risks. The entire Krath way of life was changing because of 30 human ships. He could order another attack, assemble an even larger fleet, throw everything the Empire had at the humans. But he had seen the reports from Sirius Gate. He had listened to General Cavros describe what happened there. The humans had destroyed 450 ships in 30 seconds and barely tried. What would they do if the Krath truly angered them? What would happen if those 30 ships decided to attack instead of defend? The Emperor did not want to find out. Across the galaxy, other leaders made similar calculations. The humans were too powerful to fight and too principled to bargain with. They did not want territory or tribute. They did not want to rule. They only wanted one thing: peace. So slowly and reluctantly, the aggressive species began giving them peace. Captain Day One sat in his quarters that night. Writing a report for Earth, he described the progress they had made, the allies they had gained, the conflicts they had prevented. At the end, he added a personal note. 300 years ago, humans withdrew from the galaxy because we were tired of war. Today, we returned because someone needed help. I do not know if this was the right choice. I do not know what the future holds. But I know this: every being we save, every species we protect, every conflict we prevent makes the sacrifice worthwhile. We are Deathworlders, born on a planet that tried to kill us every day. That strength, that resilience, that refusal to give up, we can use it to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of conquer. That is the lesson we learned 300 years ago. That is the lesson we are teaching now. And I hope, when our service finally ends, the galaxy will remember us not for our weapons, but for how we chose to use them. He sent the report and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Someone needed help. And when they called, the Guardians would answer. That was enough. That was everything.